Hello there, and welcome to episode 5 of One-on-One on the Bottom Line podcast. I'm Jimmy Finizzi. I hope that you're doing well. I'm not going to waste any more time. This is going to be a short pre-introduction to our next guest because, quite frankly, he needs no introduction. In conclusion of our 4-part series on this series with First to 11 and Concrete Castles, I'm going to have with me the man who started it all for everything from Rock School Studios in Erie, Pennsylvania, to First to 11 themselves, from the origins of M4 to where they are now, the whole deal. I'm going to be joined by Ryan Krysiak momentarily. This is going to be a very fascinating and entertaining conversation. So with that being said, we're not going to waste any more time. Sit back, relax, have a good time, and enjoy this exclusive interview with Ryan Krysiak of First to 11. Enjoy. Well, like I said before, we ain't wasting any more time. Once again, this is episode 5 of One-on-One on the Bottom Line podcast. And in conclusion of our 4-part series with our friends in First to 11 and Concrete Castles, here he is, the man that started it all. Ryan Krysiak is in the building. Ryan, how the heck are you doing, man? Thank you so much for doing this.
I'm doing so good today. Thanks for having me.
No, dude, are you kidding? It's absolutely my pleasure. And thank you again for agreeing to do this. So let's not waste any more time here and dive right into the swing of things. So once again, I know people are probably sick and tired of me asking the origin story, but you know what? I don't give a damn. I'm still going to ask it anyway, because I am always fascinated by how people got started in their careers. So with that being said, how did you get started? Was there any specific musical influences? Did one of your family members encourage you to get started? How did you first find out about music?
I guess I became that age, 10, 11, 12, where music started to be, equally as important as television did. I was just all into TV shows and stuff like that and cartoons when I was little. And then I kind of discovered, just some songs that meant something to me. And it's silly, but I was always I was always crushing on some girl when I was in school. And there was a Mariah Carey Boys to Men collab that I think was probably one of the very first songs that I was oh, that got me, that's my life in that song. And I think that was kind of the first thing that I identified with music. And then I was just telling the story the other day, the first time I heard a heavy distorted guitar, I think was on a WWE thematic entrance music CD that they had. It was called Full Metal or something like that. Okay. It was all about wrestling entrance themes, and I heard some palm muted guitars in one of those songs, and I was oh dang, what is that instrument? And then Marilyn Manson's Beautiful People was another thing. The da 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 da. I was oh, that's so heavy. What is that? And then it turned into Metallica. Because one of my buddies in the neighborhood got into Metallica, and I heard For Whom the Bell Tolls, and it was that same sound again, and I was all right, I got to figure out what that is. Figured out it was electric guitar. And then I think at the time, we only had one music store in town, and I was Mom, take me to World of Music. I want to buy a guitar. And I sold my Nintendo 64. So
what?
Yeah, to buy my guitar. So this was 1996 or something like that. So I think that was right when Nintendo 64 came out. I had it for, I don't know, a year, maybe 6 months or something like that before I was finally nope, this is my most prized possession. I'm going to sell it and I'm going to use it to buy a guitar.
Wow. But selling the N64 part kind of breaks me a little, not going to lie, because I still have mine. I am not selling that to anybody. That is my prized possession. I ain't touching that. But no, in all seriousness though, look, I completely understand where you're coming from. So what you're saying is, because you watched WWE and because you've heard all of these, mainstream 80s, heavy metal type bands, that's how you first got started into playing guitar?
Yeah, but it was kind of weird because I listened to Rocket 101, which was the local rocket station or rock station in my town. And they played Motley Crue and Ozzy and, stuff that I guess I never really identified with before.
Right.
And it wasn't until I just heard those specific songs that like presented it in a certain way. Cause I was never like a like guitar kind of guy. Like I never really liked soloing. I never really liked playing really fast. It was
Right.
like about that heavy, palm muted, distorted kind of tone. And, I heard it in those couple songs and that aggressive kind of nature to it that really got me like excited about it.
Yeah, no, that's really cool because I know that you're also a huge country guy and you're also in a country band. More on that later, but that's really fascinating because rock music was my first love as well. Yeah, I grew up listening to bands like Kiss, Queen, AC/DC. My dad used to be a DJ in high school, and he still has all the vinyl records from like AC/DC. Wow. He's got Kiss, he's got Queen, he's got freaking Aerosmith. So he got me into the classic rock genre, and that's actually how I got started with playing guitar. And again, for those that don't know, I do play guitar myself, so that's kind of one of my big influences. So at the time you first started playing guitar, have you had any interest in joining a band? Like, were you interested in performing at that time? Like, what were you feeling when you first picked up an instrument?
Yeah, I think that was, the ultimate goal.
Okay.
Like I had a couple of my friends from the neighborhood that were all into Metallica and stuff with me. So we had, probably 3 or 4 guys that all played guitar. And, we found someone at school that played drums as well. And we got together in like my mom's basement. My mom was always really cool about that. I like moved my room down to the basement. So I had all this extra room for like guitars and amps and stuff like that. Like once I got into it, it was like, it took over my life. You know what I mean? I was looking at catalogs and like, I'm going to buy this guitar next, and I'm going to buy these microphones, and I'm going to buy this PA system so that we can go out and play shows. And, I was like looking in the local like magazines and stuff like that for like contests that we could enter, because it was hard being like, 13, 14 and being like, I need to find a place to play. So I was like looking for contests, and we entered like in my high school talent show and like these other little things around Erie that were like, battle of the bands kind of things. And a lot of them like, they fell through for one reason or another. They didn't have enough interest, but like I did get to play my talent shows at my high school. And I think that was like my very first like real live performance. And, I just got like a bunch of my friends together. Some of them didn't know how to play instruments, but they were like, dude, I want to be in your band. So I taught them how to play instruments. So that was kind of like where the rock school started, was me teaching my friends. Like, they were like, I love music, I want to play in a band, but I don't know how. So I showed a lot of my friends how to play guitar and drums. And then we put together a band to play my talent show at school. And that was like the beginning of me performing on stage.
That's awesome. Now we'll get into more of the origins of the rock school in a little while, because I know that was probably a really huge deal for you since you were starting to teach kids instruments. So we'll get more into that in a little bit. Okay. But I want to talk about your first live performance for a second. Like, what were your emotions going through at the time? Like, were you nervous? Were you excited? Did you not want to go on stage? Like, what were you what were you thinking at that time? What was young Ryan Krysiak? Now, granted, you are still young, don't get me wrong, but what was a younger Ryan Krysiak thinking at the time you were first going to go on that stage and perform in front of people?
I mean, there was another band that was in my my school that was like pretty well seasoned. They went out and they played a lot, and they were all my friends as well. So they were kind of like the big brother band that I always like looked up to. And okay. So playing like these talent shows, they were also playing too. So I really just wanted to do what they were doing, and it was kind of hard because they all had musicians that had been doing it for a long time. And I was just putting together like people that were just learning how to play. And, yeah, I was always like anxious about it, but like excited at the same time. And that's the way that it is, to this day, that like whenever we're doing something new or like being presented in a new way, like live streaming or, trying to do something that's just not, the typical thing that we do every weekend or every week, it definitely gives me like a little bit of like, oh, I really got to make sure this is good. And it consumes my brain for like that week. And then when it's over. And then I'm like, all right, now that's under my belt. Now I can repeat that and it's not a big deal. But yeah, every time I do something for the first time, it gets like, very consuming. Like I get lost in it and it stresses me out a lot, but I always know, that in the end it's going to work out, because of that over preparedness and because of the amount of detail that I go into, like preparing for it. So it's I'm at least aware that like my brain is giving me this anxiety for like basically no reason. So I can like kind of turn it off a little bit, that it doesn't like get the best of me, I guess.
Well, hey, you know what? It's better to be over prepared than not prepared at all. So that's definitely relatable, man. We're talking to Ryan Krysiak on the Bottom Line podcast of First to 11. So now I want to talk about the origins of Rock School Studios. Again, it's located in Erie, Pennsylvania, for those that don't know. I know you mentioned a little bit before about how you started that by you starting to teach some of your friends how to play guitar and stuff. But other than that, what drove you to really start the Rock School?
So I was just playing in bands basically after high school. I was in vans going and playing shows all over, the area that we live in. And I never really thought about teaching until one of my friends, he was moving out of state, and he had a teaching job at that same, local music store that I bought my first guitar.
Right.
And he was leaving Erie to go. I think he was going to Portland or somewhere really far away. And he wanted to go see this girl that lived in Washington, D.C. before he left. He was like, I got to go see this girl. And I was like, hey, man, I'll drive you down there. So I drove my friend. He didn't have a driver's license or a car or anything. So I drove him to Washington, D.C. so that he could hang out with this girl. And I just like waited in the lobby of like her dorm room for a couple hours.
Gosh.
And then I drove him back home, because I just, I was a kind of a spontaneous spur of the moment kind of dude back then. And
right.
He was just like, hey, man, I'm leaving this job. Thank you for doing this for me. Like, I want you to have this job, like, if you want it. So he gave me all of his students that he had accumulated at this music store. And I had like never really thought about teaching before. I was doing it. I was teaching my friends without really like, I should do this as like a profession. I should charge for this or whatever. So yeah, he gave me that job at the local music store, and that's kind of how I fell into teaching. And then when it came to, having students like Matthew and Ben, who was one of the original guitar players in M4 before it was First to 11. And then I was like, you guys are all the same age. You guys are, all the same talented kids. Let's get a band together. There's no point, not no point, but like, that's the goal. You know what I mean? Is to be in a band, not to play in your bedroom by yourself. So I got that all together, and the parents were super helpful. And they were like, no, we'll pay you to do this. And I just wanted to do it as like a nice bonus or whatever to me teaching them lessons. But they were like, no, let's do this. And then once those kids started playing out M4 and, other kids saw them, they're like, I want to be in a band. And other parents were like, I want my kid to be in a band. And then it just turned into the Rock School. So at one point, I think I had 10 or 12 bands all by myself with all different aged kids. And, I just got the ball rolling, again, through the local music store. They gave me like a room in the back, and they let me do my thing back there. And eventually we just got a little too big for being back there. We were getting a little too crazy, I think, with our schedules and shooting videos and stuff like that. And I just had to find my own place. So that's why we opened the studio that we have now.
That was kind of going to lead me into my next question, which is the origins of M4. Tell me what you were feeling at the time that you had Matt, Ben, and all the other students. Because if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe M4 was one of the first bands that you ever worked with. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, they were the beginning. Yeah. Okay. So it was Matthew, who's still in First to 11, Ben,
yes,
who formerly was a guitar player, Bo, who's a guitar player, his brother Charlie, who was the drummer in First to 11, and Chad, the bass player. So They were like my first group. So it was 3 guitar players, bass, drums, and then at the time we were doing like my friends would just come and sing because they didn't have a singer. But then they found a male singer. His name was Steven. And then they found a female singer that was Catherine. So we did like male, female kind of they traded off back and forth during the shows for a while.
Right.
And they both left to pursue like sport related activities. And then that's when we found Audra.
Oh, wow. So that's the origin story of how Audra came in the picture. All right.
Yeah.
But now I want to discuss Matt for a second here, because I had him on before and I asked him, we were talking about like what the biggest lesson that he's learned throughout his time being in a band. And he mentioned the word consistency, which I think is very, very fascinating, because I think consistency is the most important thing that you can learn, whether it be for anything, whether it be with what you're doing, whether it be with what I'm doing, whether it be that you're like a painter, like whatever. Consistency is the key to like everything. So besides consistency, working with Matt for so long, who I think is basically like the only original member of everything, really. What have you learned most from him throughout your time working with him?
You know, it is consistency. Like Matt, you know, I'll be honest, but this is going to come around and it'd be very nice to him, I promise, is that he wasn't the best guitar player. You know what I mean? Out of the gate. He was, and it's not like he was bad at all. He was still
right. Yeah.
But you know, there's some students like Sam or Ben that they just learn differently. They naturally kind of take to things. And I think Matt's thing that he is just like gifted at is performing. You know what I mean? He's always had to work really, really hard to be a good guitar player, whereas the other students were just kind of naturally good guitar players, but they were kind of awkward at performing. So, you know, there's a different way for everybody, but it was the consistency, is that he never missed practices. You know what I mean? He always put this as a priority over other sports, over, you know, his friends, over everything, is that he was just dedicated. And it was consistent for him. Like, it wasn't like, I wonder if Matt's going to show up for his lesson today. It was never like that. He was always there, always ready to help, always, you know, wanted to learn about, you know, how to set things up and how to tear things down and how to do things, you know, the proper way. And it wasn't like me telling like some of the other students, like, you have to learn how to do this. He wanted to learn how to do that sort of stuff. So he was, you know, just consistently interested. He was consistently there. He was consistently present in everything that we were doing. And even though he might not be the fastest learner, and again, it's not like he's a slow learner, he just wasn't the fastest, but he was there for everything. So when it comes to consistency, I kind of relate it to, you know, you're doing like a Chinese auction or something like that. And the more tickets you put in there, the more chances you have of winning. So when you show up day after day after day after day, you know, when that big opportunity does come, you've got all these tickets in there. You know, it could come this day, it could come this day, and you don't want to have it come on the day that you're not there, or the day that you didn't pay attention, or the day, you know, that you could have missed out on something. So that is 100% it. And when it comes to like making videos, I'm sure that's the consistency that he was talking about. It's kind of like, let's make a video every single week. So when an opportunity does come, if we would have said, you know, when we do this Cheap Trick cover, that might not do very well. Let's not do a Cheap Trick cover. Like, we were like, it might not do well. Let's put it out anyways. So we just took every opportunity and put out a video as often as we possibly could. And I want to say that one of the videos that we just like jammed in there on like a Wednesday, not even like a normal day that we release a song, that was one of the videos that got noticed by this person that gave us, you know, this opportunity that led to this opportunity. So, you know, a lot of times it's the ones that weren't necessarily the Sweet Child of Mine videos that, you know, have millions and millions of views. It was something that was like kind of meaningless and trivial. And we're like, oh, why would we do that? But that turned into, you know, this great opportunity somewhere down the road. So like I said, it's just putting, you know, buying a lot of lottery tickets or buying, you know, a lot of Chinese auction tickets or whatever, you know, you're just putting more hats in the ring, and you're, you know, it's going to pay off eventually.
Pretty sure you're gonna make Matt cry if he's watching this video right now. He's just probably gonna like come and like beat you up next time you're in the studio, just like, no, what are you saying to me about this? But no, in all seriousness, that's really, really fascinating stuff. And look, That's why Matt is one of the best to ever do it. He really
always,
has.
He always makes fun of me because every time I compliment him, it comes in like some sort of backhanded way. Like, I tell him like he's the greatest student I've ever had, but then in the same sentence, I'll be like, he was terrible at the beginning. He was awful. Well, that's what he focuses on. He's always just like, you said I was terrible to everybody. I'm like, yeah, but I said you were the best eventually. And he's like, it doesn't matter.
Well, that's one way to backhand comment. I can say that. That's something I can never do because I'm just too nice like that. But anyway, going from M4 to now the origins of First to 11, which is where you guys are right now. Obviously, a lot of mainstream successes of right now. More on that in a little later. But I know the first time that Neil and I had you guys on this show, you guys mentioned that you got the name First to 11 from a game called Volleyback. Who made up that game?
I don't know who like really made it up. My friends that were in that band that I was telling you about in high school that like I kind of looked up to, they went to Tallahassee and I like tagged along with them, and it was just a game that I don't know, the people there knew about it or made it up. I'm not sure where it really started, but we just had this ball from Walmart, and we just kind of invented it was like, poor man's tennis, I guess, is that we didn't have tennis rackets and tennis balls. So we just went to whatever, we went to Walmart and found what we could afford, which was these, $3 inflatable plastic.
One of those like plastic balls. Walmart balls that you find on the shelf.
Yeah. I got you. We bought one of those and used our hands. So we just we made up so many games like that. That group of friends that I had, we made up games everywhere we went. If we were like at a playground, we would throw like big rocks up in the air and then run and like we were just, I don't know. We always turned everything into a game. Like we're always trying to find something to entertain ourselves.
I guess whatever works. And hey, if it helps you come up with a band name that's gotten a lot of success, be it. So now I want to go to your first show as First to 11. And actually, first of all, I know that everybody's going to be clamoring me to ask this, so I'll ask this anyway. How did you come across Audra?
So Audra was a friend of mine that was in like local bands and stuff like that. He was doing construction, I think, with Audra's dad. Okay. And they were talking about how she was just a naturally really good singer. And Sean, Audra's dad, was kind of like, he's not musical. Audra's mom is not musical. And they were like, we don't know how to like, where to take this girl that's very good at singing, because they were, I think, more into, sports and things like that. So they were like, what in Erie, do I do with a talented singer? And Bob, who was the friend of mine, was like, you gotta sign her up for the rock school. My friend Ryan does this thing where he puts kids together in bands, and she'd be perfect for that. And when Bob told me that, he was like, this girl is good. Like, this isn't like good for a 10-year-old good. This girl is like really good.
Right.
So, there were some bands that I put together of kids that were just learning how to play, but I put a note on her application, and I think I still have her application in this closet over here.
That's great.
Which is actually the closet that when we started recording the covers, that's where she recorded all her stuff, was in the closet of this basement, which is now, beautifully decorated by my kids.
Yeah.
But
by the way, I don't mean to cut you off. I apologize, but if you're not watching on YouTube, that is his kid's playroom. Yeah, if I like to call it that. But anyway, please continue. I'm sorry.
But yeah, I wrote on her application like needs to be in talented band or very good band. And it just happened. Like, I think I got her application and maybe 2 months later, like I was just sitting on it, like waiting for the right group to come up. And that was when the two singers of M4 left. So They were like, I want to do this, or, cheerleading or baseball or whatever they wanted to do. And so then I called Audra's dad and was like, hey, I've got this opening for this band. I had never actually heard her sing before, but I knew from, the recommendation of my friend, Bob, that she was really good. So I was like, we're having practice tonight. If you want to come tonight, because I think they were playing a show. They had practice like every Monday. And I think that they had a show that Friday, and the singer had quit. So I was like, oh, well, they won't be able to play this show, without a singer. So I was like, can she come to practice like tonight, rehearse a couple songs, and then potentially do this show on Friday? And he was like, yep, we'll be there. So I think she was at like volleyball practice or something like that. And her dad just came, scooped her up, and was like, we're going to band practice. Like, the opportunity is now. So she showed up at our band practice, and like, the boys, all 5 of them being, 10, 11, 12-year-old boys were like, oh, we're going to meet the new singer. So they were like as awkward as can be. And Audra just showed up, like holding onto her microphone with like 2 hands, and like belted out a couple songs, Taylor Swift, Adele's Rolling in the Deep, Journey, Don't Stop Believing. Like, there were a lot of songs that she just knew, off the top of her head, from singing like karaoke and stuff. And yeah, she was the right one. And we were like, all right, perfect. So let's do those songs at this show. And I felt kind of bad for the boys, because the boys were getting into like heavy music. They were learning like Muse, and they were learning, Juliana Theory, and they were learning all these like heavier bands. And, Audra obviously didn't know any of that sort of stuff. And I was like, I don't want to just make the boys sing Adele, and all these songs that were like kind of not their favorite ones to play. Right. So I was like, do you think you could learn a song by Friday? I was just kind of testing her out. Like, so I was like, can you learn Hysteria? And she was like, oh yeah, I'll try and learn that. And not registering in my brain that there's Def Leppard's Hysteria, which is way more popular than the Hysteria by Muse. So she had learned the wrong Hysteria.
Yeah.
So she showed up at the show, and she was ready to sing the Def Leppard one.
Times.
Yeah. So that was kind of funny. But I think, we were playing Sweet Child of Mine, and she wasn't really familiar with that. And her dad was like, yeah, she can sing that. And so I think she just got through Sweet Child of Mine, because I think she did 4 songs her very first show, after only practicing with the band, like, for a few minutes, just to run those couple songs. But yeah, she's been like that ever since. When we say, what do you think of this? She's like, yeah, I'll do it. Like she's not like, I don't know if that's in my range. Like, Audra is a machine when it comes to singing. Like, she can sing it in the original key. She can sing guy songs. She can sing girl songs. She can sing, every single type of anything. She's literally like the epitome of what, is perfect for the, being a cover band. Like, she's so versatile. She can do anything.
And look how it's turned out for you. A lot of success. And at the time of this recording, which is August 9th, 2021, 1.20 million subscribers and counting. How's it working out for you? Pretty damn good. I didn't know
we got to 1.2. Yeah.
Exactly. We're talking to Ryan Krysiak of First to 11 on the Bottom Line podcast. Now, I find this to be very, very fascinating here, because you have been with these guys since the very beginning. However, you did not become an official member of First to 11 until 2019 as the bass guitarist. Now, I know that First to 11 is not the only band that you are in, but when you became an official member, how did it feel being the quote-unquote new guy, even though you've been working with these guys forever?
Yeah, it was kind of weird, because I had kind of made the decision, a long time ago to kind of stay behind the scenes. You know what I mean? Right. Where I've seen some other bands, that have their dad in there, or they have their, instructor in there. And I never really wanted to do that. I never really wanted to be like, hey, look at me. I wanted to, have the kids be like the stars, and I wanted them to get all the attention. So, I would kind of just stay back all the time. And when it came to like doing the covers and everything, I was recording some of the covers. I was arranging them. I was shooting the videos. I was doing a lot of the same stuff that I still do, but I was just, I wasn't showing my face. I wasn't, doing a whole lot. And I think it was like when we hit 100,000 that I like did my first video, because I had a lot to, tell about the story of First to 11. So when we hit 100,000, I wanted to make a video that was like kind of telling the story and getting everyone to, know a little bit about the band that they were watching on YouTube all the time. Cause we had just posted videos, no like personal content or anything like that. So it was nerve wracking for me to even be in front of the camera with the kids, because I was like, oh, I hope everyone's not like weirded out by, this older dude that is like, in this First to 11 video. And then, some things started happening as far as like getting opportunities to go fly here and film this video and go do this and, with these people or whatever. And it was getting like just really exhausting explaining myself to everybody, because they were like, oh, we want First to 11 to come and do this. And I was like, well, all right, well, we need, 5 tickets for all the, the kids plus me. And they were like, who are you again? And I'm like, I do everything with them. You know what I mean? Like I'm their manager, I record the covers and I do the filming and stuff like that. And they were like, okay. And it was hard to explain that sort of stuff. And I never really liked the title of like manager. That always just gave me a bad vibe, because like managers are always kind of like jerks and they butt into things. And, that's not how I really felt like I was involved in the band. I did managerial stuff, but like I also, like I said, was involved in the music and like teaching and doing all that sort of stuff. So it was at that point where they were like turning 18 as well. And I was like, it's not like they're tiny little kids and I'm this like 30-year-old guy. It was starting to like, not look as weird that I would be, playing with them. So that was when I was kind of like, well, I don't want to have to explain this to everybody and be, not able to do some sort of stuff because I'm not in the band. And they only had 3 members at the time because everyone else had went off to college. So it was kind of like, well, let's at least make it to the point that we're a full band. We have guitar, bass, drums, vocals, and I'll start participating a little bit more. And it's been awesome. You know what I mean? Like I don't feel like people are like weirded out by me being older than them or anything like that. But, it makes me feel young again. And, and it is super fun. It's, kind of weird because they're at different points, obviously, in their life, like where they're doing their Concrete Castle stuff and they want to go see the world and they want to, go and do all this other stuff. And, that's like, go ahead, go do that. That's just like not where I'm at right now. So I'm doing this sort of stuff, with the kids and teaching. And so First to 11 is awesome because there's not really that pressure to be away from home. You know what I mean? We can do it right here in Erie. We can do it all together. It doesn't occupy too much of our time. So it's just kind of, it works out that we can both be, like I said, in different places of our lives, but still be able to get together and do the thing that we like doing together.
Yeah, it seems to have been making a really fine living for you, especially. But also at the time of this recording, over 290 million views on YouTube. Also, and counting. So just wanted to crunch some numbers right there, because obviously you guys have had a lot of amazing mainstream success over the years. I want to get more into the Concrete Castle stuff in just a few short moments here. But talk about the other country band that you're in. I forget what the name. I think it's like Refugee. I think is something like that.
Refuge.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's my country band. And while I was doing like a lot of different cover bands in town, or actually not a lot, I was in an original band that was called Super Number 7, and then I started this cover band called The Cover Up. And The Cover Up was kind of where I got the idea of doing like pop songs, but doing them in a rock format. But it wasn't like an original idea. I had some friends that were doing that sort of stuff too. And actually they're going to be featured in a video sometime soon too, because they were like the inspiration for, doing pop songs in a rock format. So nice. We're going to do a cool collab with them coming up. But
you heard it here first on The Bottom Line. New collab coming up soon. please continue. No, I'm sorry, Ryan.
But yeah, they were kind of what got me started on that. And I did this band called The Cover Up for a while that basically did what First to 11 is doing now. But we just, played bar shows and things like that. And then when that kind of fizzled out, and it was mainly because we couldn't find a singer, that was like Audra, that could do Katy Perry and all these different types of vocal, and do it justice.
Right.
So it was really hard to keep that going. So then I joined a country band because I was running sound at the time. So I was like doing sound for local bands, and I saw, these guys hired me, and I saw the crowd that they got. And I was like, man, there are a lot of country music fans. You know what I mean? Like they are just massive in numbers and loyal too. They will come out to every country, concert, because it's more of like an experience to them. You know what I mean? It's not really that they have a huge attachment to the music. They just like the atmosphere of, tailgating and coming and listening to that sort of stuff and being part of that community. So it was kind of cool to be a part of that, because, rock music is very, it's like, I'm the best and I don't like anyone else. And it's very judgmental and stuff like that. And I always felt like the country music scene is very just like friendly. Everybody is like, buds. And I really liked that. And I never really liked country music.
Right.
Because like, I always thought it was just kind of, it didn't have a lot of like emotion to it. It was kind of like very just surface level. And at least that's what I thought. And so I started giving it a chance and started looking more into it, found some bands that kind of bridged the gap between rock music and country music. And I started to, just appreciate country for what it was. And, there's a beauty in writing a country song. You have to, write things literally, because, rock music, you can create all these metaphors and stuff like that. And no one really knows what you're talking about. But country, you just have to put your heart on your sleeve and say exactly what you're feeling. And it's kind of cool. It's a different style of writing. And I kind of latched onto it. And there are a lot of country songs now that hit me, in the feels. So yeah, it was just something that I was really narrow-minded about at the beginning. But, once I opened up and kind of allowed it to come in, I really kind of fell for it. And it's something that's really easy to play, because like there's not a ton of like flashy guitar solos in country. It's like a get in, get out, play a couple chords. It's more about the songwriting than it is like the musicianship, which I really like too.
Yeah, because I was also going to say that seems to be like the new like mainstream type of music that there is today. I know like a lot of people absolutely love country music, especially today with all these country artists that are coming out of the gate like this. But I also know that there are a lot of people that do not like it at all, because they're all saying like, oh, every single country song is basically the same. It's about love. It's about trucks. It's about this. It's about that. So you get all of these mixed reviews on it. But at the end of the day, country is like, you either really, really love it, like half the population, or you're like the other half of the population that absolutely cannot stand it and thinks that every single song is the same. So for you, I know that's got to be something that you hear a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it is 100% valid. Like if you like, Polyphia or Dream Theater or something where the musicianship is incredible, then you're going to hate country music, because it's not, the musicianship just, I mean, it's there, but it's not on that level. But
right.
What I think a lot of people don't understand, and they'll say the same thing about pop music too, is it's the same four chords. It is the same four chords, but there's so much more that goes into writing a hit country song. It's more about, like I said, the songwriting. It's more about the story and the presentation of that story. And, there's so much more that goes into it. So you can write a beautiful, I don't know, like opus song, but if it doesn't connect with someone on an emotional level, you've isolated 90% of your audience. You know what I mean? Because only 10% are going to understand how intricate the musicianship is, and 90% of them are going to understand the emotional connection. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's just, you have to understand what its purpose is and not confuse it for something else. That's the big thing, is that you've got to understand that, like, you might think that you can write a pop song like that, but you can't. You know what I mean? The people that write those songs are so well seasoned, and they understand, what's going to sell and what's going to get someone to attach themselves to it. You definitely can't take like, a 4-chord song and write I'll only love you when I'm not with you. I'm blue. You know what I mean? You can't
Right.
write
Yeah,
really
yeah, yeah.
generic lyrics to a song like that. You have to write something that's going to identify or a lot of people. And it's really tough to do. So it might seem like it's easy, but if you told any of those people you think you can write a country song, go ahead and write one. You know, make your $1 million if you think it's that easy, but it's not.
Yeah, you definitely got to prove yourself in the music world, especially when it comes to writing a country song. You are not wrong about that. So let's go to the Concrete Castle stuff, because I know that you are not a part of the Concrete Castle stuff, but you obviously do know about it because they have a lot of great stuff coming up. They already released 4 singles. They're coming out with a debut album in a few short weeks already. It's going to be amazing. And it actually comes out. I was talking to Sam about this when I had him on. It actually comes out the day that I start my new hockey job with the ProTech Ducks. So they just gave me something to jam along to my right to work. So I appreciate that from them. So they got that coming out. They're going on tour with Against the Current. So a lot of amazing stuff. So I know that obviously you were not a part of it because, listen, you got a wife, you got kids, you got a beautiful family, you got a lot of other stuff on your plate. So I totally understand. However, was it a hard decision not to be a part of this?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of wrestle with it all the time, you know, where I'm like, oh, maybe I could have done it, or maybe I should, or like I'm changing my mind like left and right, because it's you know, there's some stuff that I could do and some stuff that I couldn't do. Right. So like you know, when I talked to Dave at the very beginning, Dave is the owner of the record label Velocity that they're on. So he came to Erie, and I had dinner with him and Audra, and we kind of just talked about, like, you know, this is a few years ago. We were like, all right, well, where is this going to go? You know, and it was right when I had started playing in First to 11. Right. And he was like, where do you fit in with this? And I was like, to be honest, like, if it's going to be, you know, this huge, you know, kind of major label thing, then, and it's going to be, you know, something that makes sense for my schedule and my family and stuff like that, then I would love to be a part of it. But I was like, I'm kind of over the band in a van kind of lifestyle. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, I can't, I don't want to go out, you know, a month at a time and, you know, play shows for minimal amounts of money and, you know, be struggling to get by. And luckily, because of First to 11, you know, no one's ever really going to be struggling to get by. We're very grateful, and we're in a really good position to be able to do things like what Concrete Castles is doing because of First to 11. But I was like, you know, I can't bring myself to do that. So, and he was kind of like, well, they're going to have to start at the beginning, you know, and work their way up as an original band. And I was like, yeah, then that's probably not for me. So I just kind of, you know, don't want to be that overbearing dude either. That's like, you know, you've got to do everything with me. And because, you know, my whole goal from the beginning was for them to grow up and be amazing musicians all on their own. They're all, you know, very competent musicians and making decisions. And they've learned so much that I'm not necessarily like worried about, you know, the care that they're going to be in or anything like that. It's kind of just like, you know, the record label's awesome and they couldn't be in like cooler company, you know, with the people that they're working with. So it's just kind of, you know, like what you said about the album coming out. I don't know when the album comes out because I'm kind of like trying to keep my distance and be a fan, you know what I mean? And just be supportive of what they're doing. So like sometimes I like hear them talking about Concrete Castle stuff and I like, you know, kind of close my ears, and because like I don't want to like jump in and be like, oh, you guys should do this, and like I totally get that. I wrestle with it all the time, and I'm like, you know, I want to be involved, but then I don't, and then I do, and it's probably exhausting for them when I like give my opinion on stuff, and then I rescind it, and then I'm like, I don't care what you guys do, go do whatever you want. But it's you know, it's because I care so much about those kids, and you know, I want, you know, them to do, but I also want them to go and do their own thing. So I wrestle with it, like I said, all the time. But the tour that they're doing right now with Against the Current, like it's funny. I've been making fun of them like this whole time because I said, like, when you guys join this label and you guys go and do touring, like you guys need to be on like a tour with Against the Current or Our Last Night, or you know what I mean? Like that would be perfect. So I was really pushing for that. And I was like, I don't want to do the band in a van thing, but if you guys were doing like fly dates where you went from this city to this city and you guys were only gone for a week, that's the touring life that I'd be down with. You know what I mean?
Right.
Where you're
Yeah.
just gone for like short amount of times. And that's like exactly what they're doing. And I'm like, oh man, I could have went and did that. And,
oh man.
and what's crazy is that they're doing this tour. And the first date that they're playing with Against the Current is in Orlando. And it just so happens to be the exact day that me and my family were going to Disney World. So it's the exact day that we have like an open day in Disneyland where we're not going to a park. So I'm going to get to go see the very first Concrete Castle show with Against the Current, in Orlando.
Sweet.
And it's, I'll just be able to, I don't know how far away the venue is from where we're staying, but like, I'll be able to be there for that one. And then they're going to fly to like, I think Chicago and then Dallas and then LA. They're going all over the place, but that seems like a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, that's amazing that you're going to be able to go see the first show. Now, the first show that you actually were a part of for Concrete Castles was in Atlantic City at the AC Beer and Music Festival. And I had the privilege of being in attendance for that and meeting all of you guys. And I said it to Sam. And again, I apologize for not saying it earlier to Audra and Matt when I had them on, but I'm just going to say it again. You guys are definitely some of the nicest people I have ever talked to. Out of every single band that I've met so far, from like Breaking Benjamin to Seether, et cetera, you guys are definitely at the top of some of the nicest guys I've ever talked to. You're so laid back. You care so much about your fans. It truly is unbelievable. So it was really, really an amazing show, an amazing experience to meet all of you. But the first time you saw them on that stage, you must have been thinking to yourself, damn, I must be one proud guy seeing these kids up on stage doing what they're doing, not to mention performing their own original songs, which I'm sure was a lot easier for them.
I mean, it was one of those things that it was their first show, and I was like, there's no way I'm missing that. I don't care where it is, I'm going. So it ended up working out that I played a show here in Erie, and then I think I drove right to Pittsburgh, got on a plane at like 4 a.m, and then flew to Philadelphia, and then drove an hour or two to Atlantic City from Philadelphia. So I could be there at I think they started at 11 a.m. or something like that.
Right.
It was it was really early.
I think it was at like 12 noon? I think.
Maybe it was at noon, but like I had to do all that in the morning so that I could get to Atlantic City, and then I watched them play. We went and got IHOP afterwards, and then I flew right back home. Like I had to be there for that show, because they, I've been with them for so long. There was no way I was missing that, for sure.
No, yeah, absolutely. You had to be there, and the fact that you're going to be there for their first show on tour in Orlando really, really is amazing. So I want to get into your kid Cohen for a second, because he now has a YouTube channel, and look, he is amazing. He's better than I am at drums, and that's saying something. I've been playing for like freaking, I don't know, almost 10 years, and your kid has way more experience on drums than I do. So I definitely got to give it up for him. How did you first get into wanting to start a YouTube channel for Cohen?
I mean, he just like when I first had Quinn, my daughter, she's 7, and she like used to sleep with drumsticks, and we had this like little drum pad. I think it's laying around right over here.
Oh, there you go.
There it is.
That's it. Again, if you're not watching on YouTube, we'll try and somehow, some way post the visual image for you.
Yeah. She was like in love with drums, and she played all the time. And I think when Cohen was born, Quinn was 3, and she, just was kind of doing like what a normal 3-year-old would do, just hitting stuff, really enjoying herself.
Right.
But then Cohen saw her, and he started playing, and then he just he locked onto it. He was not just hitting things, he was like playing in time. So he, like, the very first thing that he did was he was listening to Devil by Shinedown. And he
Ooh.
loved that song. And this is before he could even talk, because when I would be like, you know, what song do you want to listen to, bud? And he was like, Datu, you know, like he couldn't say Devil, but he was like, he was just playing in time, like on the hi-hat to this Shinedown song. And then he started to get, you know, both hands going, like where he was playing the snare and the hi-hat at the same time. And he was probably, you know, like 2 years old. And so I was taking him to the rock school. I built a little, you know, drum set for him down here. And he just eventually was like, all right, now I want to get the kick drum involved. So because he's so little, you know, I had to build this tiny drum set that he could reach the kick drum and be able to play, you know, with his hands at the same time. So I had to like chop up this electric drum set and cut off some of the pieces so that I could lower it to get it to the point where he could actually play it. And then from that point, he just started playing every song. He's playing Foo Fighters, he's playing Muse, he's playing, you know, Rob Zombie, he's playing all of these songs. And I'm like showing him like how to count it and stuff. And I think he understands it, but he doesn't really like, he's not like a traditional like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 end. You know what I mean? He understands all that stuff, but he does a lot of it by ear. So he's a natural. He loves playing, and nothing stops him from playing, you know, because I made sure that he's got drum sets and guitars and everything is just laying out, you know, all over the floor. It's like a mix of like Paw Patrol toys and guitars and amps and drums and stuff like that, just strewn across my floor at all times.
Man.
But yeah, he loves it. And he's learned how to play guitar now. And he's been messing around on the piano. And I think he has perfect pitch too, which is incredible. So he's a natural, and luckily his dad is a music teacher, you know what I mean? So it's just really like he has this natural talent, and I'm able to be there to help him, you know, when he gets stuck with stuff or if he has questions with stuff. And we work on, you know, music like, I don't know, 15-20 minutes a day. We don't really like set aside a time for it. It's just when I see him upstairs and he's got his guitar on, I'll come by and sit with him and be like, hey, you want to learn how to play this song? And I'll be like, it's C-G-A-F, you know, and he'll be like, all right. And then he plays. So he's learning some Blink-182 songs now. And he's like, as for being a music teacher's kid, like he couldn't ask for anything better. Like he's the perfect student, and he just turned 5, well, in April, but he's gonna be a beast.
He's already a beast. For a 5-year-old, he's already a beast. He's an April baby like I am. So, hey, it works out. But in all seriousness, though, please go subscribe to Cohen's YouTube channel. I'll leave a link in the description section for you so you can check that out.
He's got one more drum cover, I think, going up, but he's been crazy about guitar lately. So we're going to try and switch him over and do some guitar covers. So he's been dormant a little bit on his channel, but he's got one more drum cover, and then he wants to do some Blink-182. He wants to do some Marilyn Manson he's into right now too. So he's going to maybe do some Ghost covers. He's getting excited about playing guitar.
You're raising him right, man. That's awesome. That's awesome stuff. Just a few more quick questions here before we sign off, because unfortunately our time is coming to a close. Just a few more quick questions here. And I'm sorry for not asking this one before. I asked before how you met Audra. How did you first come across meeting Sam?
I don't remember how exactly he got involved, but his brother was a former student of mine.
Okay.
And I think he had taken lessons at the music store that I worked at, but with a different teacher. Sam did.
Right.
So I think that, you know, it didn't work out with that teacher, and someone was like, you need to try and get lessons with Ryan. So I think someone suggested him to take lessons with me. And, you know, we hit it off right away. He was, like I said, like a prodigy student from the beginning. He is very knowledgeable. He's more of like a mental learner than like Matt is more of like a hands-on kind of learner. And, but Sam just absorbed everything. And, you know, he's just like, he's like Cohen. He's just a prodigy, like musical. It's just in his blood. And, he was in another band because there were already 3 guitar players in M4. Right. And he was friends with all of those kids too, because they're the same age. And he just kind of played in this band called Jack's Mom, like parallel to what First to 11 was doing. And Jack's Mom was more like a rock oriented, less pop, you know what I mean? More rock oriented band.
Yeah.
And it just made sense when Bo and Chad and Charlie all left the band. The first person that we got in was Sam,
Nice.
because he was always ready to go. You know what I mean? He was in Jack's Mom, and he was a guitar player in that band. And then he showed interest in playing drums. So then I was like, all right, well, bud, how about I put you in this other band, which was Rose Gun Vibe. And they needed a drummer. So I was like, why don't you learn how to play drums with this other band? So he was in Jack's Mom and Rose Gun Vibe, and he was playing with both of those. So that was where he learned how to play drums. And then when Bo left for college out of First to 11, then he came in and started playing guitar in First to 11. And then when Charlie left to go to college, he went and switched over to drums. So Sam was just like kind of like training himself to be this utility knife musician, while we were just waiting for all the other kids to go off to college, I guess.
Interesting stuff. Wow, I kind of like that. Now, before I let you go, just got one more quick question here for you.
Mm-hmm.
Out of all of these years of you working with all of these kids at the rock school and with you being a musician, what has been the one constant thing that you have taken away from your time doing all this?
Oh, man. It's just, kind of like what Matt said is being consistent and really like being able to step back, from situations, where, if you're looking at things like this, with your face so close to it, it's really difficult to see, the big picture. So there were some times with First to 11 where we thought that they were going to get signed to, a different label, or we thought that the Disney Channel was, interested in them. And there were a lot of different things that we thought like were going to happen. And, you just kind of learn to just, take a step back. And if it doesn't work, what am I going to do? If it does work, what am I going to do? So it's a lot of planning and just like, being able to see past the bad things too. So when, it's a rough day, maybe our video didn't do as well as we hoped it would, or, it's not being as successful as some of our other videos, or, things like that. And it's hard not to look at it and be like, all right, we need to change everything we're doing, or maybe we just need to stop doing. What's the point? If we're not going to be doing a good job, then why even do this anymore? So being able to like take a step back and look and be like, how can we regroup, and how can we, look at this thing and learn from it? And, how can we, just improve upon what we're doing? Because, the answer is never giving up and starting over. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You can always try new things and at the same time keep, what you have going. And I think that that's a thing that musicians, they do kind of like suffer from sometimes, is they'll be like, all right, I've got this really famous band, but I'm getting bored with what this famous band is doing because I've been doing it for so long. And they're like, I want to start this side project. And then they kind of like, well, I have to end that main band to do this side project. Or, I want to reinvent myself. I want to start from zero. And I feel like that's not really the answer. Like, I know you want to be artistic, but, you kind of have to look at it as like, let's just try this new thing. You don't always have to throw out the old thing to try a new thing. You can a lot of times do two things at the same time, and you can kind of split your efforts and try and make things work. You don't necessarily have to be all in on one thing or all in on another thing. Just be, versatile and roll with the punches, and, you'll come out on top, I guess.
What a terrific answer, and what a terrific way to end an awesome interview. Ryan, you are the man. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. I truly appreciate it. And like I always say, you and the rest of the band are always welcome back anytime. Thank you so much again for doing this, man.
We'll take you up on that.
Please, dude. I promise we won't bite. We're not that cruel. But no, in all seriousness, thank you so much again, Ryan. This was a ton of fun.
Of course, man. Thanks for having me.
Of course, anytime. He is Ryan Krysiak, the leader of it all for First to 11. Make sure you go subscribe to First to 11 on YouTube, as well as follow them on Spotify, and go subscribe to Cohen's YouTube channel as well. Again, I will leave a link in the description section. Excuse me. If I could speak English to end this, that'd be great. New stuff coming out soon for First to 11 and on Cohen's channel. So stay tuned for that. This concludes our 4-part series with First to 11 and Concrete Castles on the one-on-one series. We thank you so much for watching. More great guests coming your way very, very soon. So stay tuned for updates. For Ryan Krysiak, I'm Jimmy Finizzi. This is the Bottom Line Podcast. Thank you again for tuning into the one-on-one series, and we'll see you next time. Peace and take care.